Run It Studios is the home of the Run Radio podcast and runradio.net, a podcast and station about the relentless, resilient, and innovative types, inspiring strides in life, business, and beyond. Welcome back to the Run It Studios podcast. I'm Trina Wilcox. We talk about running things here, literally and metaphorically, and a lot of us have writing on our resume. And today I want to welcome author Brian Brady into the podcast. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell me when you started your writing career and what sparked it.
Probably in about 2017, I had retired from my last job, and over the course of my career, which has been interesting, I think I've met a lot of interesting people and worked a lot of interesting cases as a police officer. So, in discussions with friends, people had made comments, "Yeah, you ought to write this down, or you should write a story." And I'd kept a lot of that in a file. So I sat down and started to put it together and make a story out of it. And the stories evolved. They're real in that they're composites of cases that either I worked or friends have worked. And the characters are composites of friends and associates. So that's kind of where it got started. And the first book led to the second and third.
Was it easy to let your imagination kind of run with the stories, or did you feel kind of stuck to what really had happened?
That's a good question. I think you need to stay real, and if you're going to use real stories, uh, but you do have literary license to expand, and I think you do more expansion on character than you do actually on the story. The
Mhm.
stories are pretty self-explanatory. I mean, they're of interest, and they're based, as I said, on real occurrences. But the characters, they allow you a lot of room to expand and to hopefully make them more interesting.
Do you have a character based off of yourself?
I think Liam is probably closer to me than the other characters. Not 100%, but close.
Yeah. When you decided to start writing these stories down and you got in your head that this could be a book and a series, did you do anything to expand your knowledge of writing and how you would develop characters?
Um, some of it's reading
Yeah.
and looking at authors that have been successful and frankly that I enjoy. Joseph Wamba, probably from a police perspective, was really the pioneer in taking a police career and converting it into a writing career.
Hmm.
And he did very well. And his stories were great. His characters, he was probably as good as anyone in character description and development. I said this before. I said I could take one of Wamba's characters out of his book, and I could find that guy on New Year's Eve in Times Square. I mean, it was they were so vivid and so good. And then from there, I think probably Michael Connelly and Sheldon Siegel are people who I've read a lot of their material and the way they develop their characters and make the characters interesting and multidimensional.
So I do remember interviewing another gentleman who had worked in the New York Police Department, and same thing, has stories for days. So, what inspires you to put those into a book? Is it because truth is stranger than fiction? Why not just file them away and move on, or take them and just go into a whole new dimension with the catalyst that you have?
I think probably it was more driven by what people said in listening to the story and saying they thought it had merit. You don't know till you actually put it on paper and throw it out there to see what's going to happen. And fortunately, most of the reviews of the books have been good. Not good enough to put me in Conley's category, but there are very few people that are. But that's been good. And the other, as you do this, you find out fairly quickly that you have to have an agent. If you're gonna get it on the Times bestseller list, you need somebody to push your work into the big four, the big five. When you're doing hybrid publishing and doing work on your own, your ability to advertise and to reach a huge audience is limited.
Well, and let's talk about that. How did you decide which route to go with publishing?
Uh, Another good question. And I started out with I'm new, it was brand new, and you get taken in easily by advertisements. People are going to publish your book, and you will be a New York Times bestseller in 5 weeks. It doesn't happen.
Right.
And when you send your money to these folks, you're never going to see your money again, and you're never going to be on the Times bestseller list. And then when you try and recoup your losses, you find out these companies are out of the country and they're judgment proof. So there's a lot of charlatans out there, and I got burned, and so I can speak from personal experience. From there, I tried self-publishing with Amazon, which is just fine, and it's inexpensive, and you get your book out there. The drawback with Amazon, you become one of about 1 million books they publish every year, and there's no way to differentiate your book. There's no way to get it. Um, I'm using Conley as an example, or Sheldon Siegel. When they have a new book coming out and you go to Amazon, that book pops up first and it's full page, and you see that, and it's telling you what day it's coming out, and you can pre-order, etc. You pay for that.
Mhm.
If you want that kind of advertising, first off, Amazon won't give you any advertising unless you have 3 published books. And then with that, you begin to buy your advertising. It's expensive. If you want that full page coverage, you're going to pay dearly for it. And you better have enough book sales to justify it. Now, guys, as I said, Michael Conley, Sheldon Siegel, when they're moving books in the hundreds of thousands, then paying for advertising is a good deal. So after that experience, a friend of mine published a book. He's a San Francisco police inspector, and it was a true crime dealing with cases he had worked. And he went with a company called Palmetto, and they're out of South Carolina. And their book would probably be called a hybrid, where you handle your own marketing, you handle your own, but they do the publishing. And I met with the president of the company, seemed very straightforward. My friend had been successful, so I published books 2 and 3 with them. And then actually went back and republished the first book through them. So I've been happy with them. Their prices were fair, and they delivered. If the book was going to be published on this date, it did get published on that date. So I've had no problem. But again, they're not going to market your book for you. You have to do that on your own. But they'll get it out there, and if you order the books, or if somebody orders the books, they'll deliver.
I think a lot of writers, especially first time writers, get stuck in that craziness of trying to understand and make heads or tails of publishing. What are some other things that you wish you would have known as a first time publisher, first time writer?
I think one of the things that I didn't find out till later uh, are writers' conferences.
Hmm.
And there are some. I went to the first time for me was the San Francisco Writers Conference, and it was at the Hyatt. And it's not cheap, but it's 3 days. And I live in the Bay Area, so I could commute to the conference. I didn't have to, so it allowed me to save some money. But at the same time, it puts you in the room with the movers and shakers in the writing business. And you go to presentations, especially the panel presentations, where you see agents who will tell you what you need to do to get your book in front of them. Doesn't mean they're going to read it. It doesn't mean they're going to accept your query letter. It just means this is how you go about doing it. Yeah, I think another valuable group were publicists. Now, these are people who will, again, uh, Bruce, the publicist I work with, was the one who contacted you. And so I'm on your podcast because of the publicist making an effort. And that's something I wouldn't have been able to do on my own. So it exposes you to publishers, publicists, agents. Um, and they've all been vetted. That's the wonderful part,
Yeah.
because to get on the panel at a conference of that magnitude, you have to be legit. And so when you're talking to these people, and a lot of times it's over a drink in a bar in the evening. The information they have is just invaluable.
So what's next for you? Are you continuing to write?
Yeah, I think so. I've got I deviated a little bit. I've got a fourth book that is I moved from San Francisco up to the far country in Montana and Wyoming. And this book is about a militia group, and so it's still crime fiction, but changed location. And then I have a fourth book in the series with the San Francisco police inspectors. That's about 2/3 of the way done. I'm working on that, and then I'm playing with a kind of a memoir type of a book dealing with I started my career with Berkeley, and Berkeley is also an interesting place. People have their visions of what Berkeley's all about. And I was there during an interesting period from the late 60s to the late 70s. So the things that were happening in our country, Vietnam War, the Bobby Kennedy assassination, King assassination, Nixon, Watergate, you name, and the Weather Underground, SDS, Black Panther, all those movements were in Berkeley. Either they started there or they passed through. So it's basically trying to put together what it was like being a police officer on the street in those interesting political times.
Have you and maybe your crime buddy thought about bringing the voice to the microphone and doing a podcast, especially since true crime is such a hot topic?
Yes, not quite sure how to go about it yet,
Uh-huh.
but it has been the subject's been broached. So let's put it that way, and I think it'd be fun. I think there's you're right. People do have an interest in it. Serial killers. My gosh, you can't turn the TV on and not find somebody doing something on serial killers. Um, and then the police drama show. I mean, the on Netflix or Amazon, especially the British. I mean, my goodness, they must have 20 different law enforcement shows on BritBox or Acorn or one of those. So the only thing I don't like about a lot of the British ones, they their characters, their heroes, their protagonists are so flawed. They have so many problems. My God, I don't know how they get anything done. Uh, so I tried to keep my characters. Everybody's got their issues, but I'd like to make sure that they're not so screwed up that they can't work. Um,
Good. Well, that'll be exciting. If that does develop, you'll have to come back and share that with us.
oh, absolutely. It's. I find if I do a book signing, people will ask that question, and you've hit on the two main topics, especially when you're signing a book. People want to know, one, probably every third person who brings a book, which is fine. They want to know how to get their book published.
Yeah.
Everybody is an aspiring author,
Yeah.
and that's fine. That's great. And there's some really talented people out there who have good things to say. The trouble is, like I said, even if you self-publish, you're one of a million, and aside from a small group of friends who, out of a courtesy, will buy your book, that's
Yeah.
probably all that's going to happen.
That and the marketing, like you were saying, Amazon's great, but you're wearing all of the hats. You're doing the marketing, you're publishing, you're selling, you're doing it all.
And when you call and talk to companies that do marketing, they'll tell you what they can do for you. They can do great things for you. There's no
Yeah,
question about it. But it's got a hefty price tag.
it does.
And so uh, it's kind of a catch 22. You got to sell the books to get the capital to buy the advertising.
Yep.
But without the advertising, you can't sell the books to develop the capital.
Yeah.
So it's a vicious circle.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you've got a great partnership with the podcast and the writing, and I'll be excited to see how that develops for you. Tell people where they can go to learn more about you and buy the books you have out now.
Okay, and well, they're Amazon, Barnes and Noble. The webpage for me is goldengatetales.com. And on that webpage, it has the books. and a little bit about myself. And there's also a forum. So if somebody has a question, uh, I'm I check it every day, and I try and get back to people quickly. I think you owe people that. If they take the time to ask you a question, you owe them a response, and one that's timely. It's not very fair to put something out there to encourage people to ask and then ignore them. So I think that's really important, and I think a lot of good authors. And I use it as I mentioned Sheldon Siegel. He's very good. He has in the back of his book an email address, and I don't know how many emails he gets, but he normally responds to you within a few days, which I was very impressed. And he's a bestseller, and that's great. He has great respect for the people that read his books.
So what do you like to do when you're not writing?
I'm trying to play golf, which is if you want to just do something completely frustrating, um,
Exactly.
you would think that I played sports, football, baseball, basketball, primarily, and when you're playing baseball, somebody's throwing a ball and they're trying to curve it and you're trying to hit it. The golf ball just sits there. All you got to do is hit it. It doesn't look that difficult, but God, it is the most frustrating game.
Yeah, it is definitely a challenging sport. I think I've
It,
hit a few and I'm pretty much done with. I've got clubs sitting in my garage. That's
yeah. Oh, I was thinking about you used to be able because they were all actually wood. You could make firewood out of them, but not now.
it.
Uh, there's, but it is frustrating, and it's expensive. You find out, it's not cheap to go out and play 9 holes of golf or 18 holes of golf. So the good news is there's a group of friends that actually I went to school with, who still are in the area, and we try and get together once or twice a month. And the golf is really secondary. It's lunch and a couple of drinks afterwards is by far the best part of the day.
Good, good. What else? Do you have pets?
No, not now. We had dogs, and right now we do not. We tried to do a little bit of traveling, and that's hard on the animals. It's kind of
Yeah.
unfair.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be around, that's great. So we have to decide on that. What we ultimately want to do. Uh, and then around the house, my wife is a gardener, and
Ooh,
so she does all the hard work. I just move the sacks of manure around, so she does all the. But there's no complaint. I mean, there's something about at 5 o'clock at night going out and cutting your own fresh vegetables for dinner. That's
yes.
pretty nice.
And that is a tough job. You kind of think, oh, yeah, gardening, let's do it. It'll be relaxing. That's tough work.
It is, and there's a thousand critters out there trying to
Yeah.
kill off your crops.
Yes.
Uh, my wife is currently engaged in a rather lengthy battle with a couple of gophers,
Oh,
uh, and these they're voracious.
yeah.
I mean, and they'll chew through just about anything. They're incredible. So you end up having to gopher proof anything you want to put in the ground.
Yeah.
And then the gopher proofing only lasts so long because the cages are metal and they rust, and then you have to replace them. So yeah, you're right. It's an ongoing battle.
Yeah. So, do you have a favorite place that you've traveled up to now?
Yes,
Okay.
St. John in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Ah, okay.
I think if I could go any place, anytime, that's the best. Uh, the people are great. It's a small island. I mean, and you have to fly into St. Thomas and take the ferry to St. So you're looking at about a total population on the island of probably less than 3,000 people, and it's only about 27 square miles.
Yeah.
And it basically has one road that goes around the island and one road that goes across the island. And the beaches and the water, just fabulous. And it's the nice part is a U.S. territory,
Mhm.
so it's U.S. dollar, it's English, and again, as an American, we're a little arrogant sometimes. Everybody else in the world speaks at least two languages,
Yeah.
so uh, their English is the primary language there, so that part's nice. But yeah, gorgeous. And then in the first book, I mentioned the Russian River, which is here in Sonoma County, and we have a small place up there that we get away to. And as a kid growing up, that was where we went on vacation. So that's kind of fun, kind of reliving your childhood, although the whole area has changed. But the river's still fun.
And where do you wanna go that you haven't been yet?
Uh, Probably Scandinavia
Oh,
and Australia, New Zealand.
okay.
Both of those. Australia, New Zealand, you need to really set aside a block of time. It's a long, long way to get there from here. And I've not been there. I've been as far as Tahiti, but not to the rest of the way. And the Scandinavia just looks gorgeous. The cities look beautiful, and I think that I'd love to be able to see that. And I'd like to try and do what we've done in Europe is to get to one location and then try and drive and be able to drive.
Yeah.
We did that in Europe. It took about a month, and we started in France and drove through France and Germany, and then to Great Britain, and then up to Scotland, and then looped back around to fly home from Paris. And
Goodness.
that was about a month. And we did that in Ireland too for about a month. My folks are from Ireland, so
Oh,
uh, going back was a good trip. Took about a month again and drove all over the country.
good. Very interesting. Exciting. Well, thanks for sharing. I appreciate it. Tell people one more time your website.
Website is goldengatetales.com, and the books are available, Barnes and Noble and local bookstores here in Sonoma County, Marin County, Copperfields and Books Inc. and Book Passage. Which are great. They're smaller stores, but they're really nice people, and they're some of them look like what a bookstore should look like. They're
Yeah,
they're compact, and there's books everywhere. They're just kind of a cool place.
good deal. Well, thank you so much for sharing about your experience. And maybe you'll be back talking about the podcast in the near future. Brian Brady, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Be sure you link over to watch and listen to whichever platform you prefer from runitstudios.com.